Hi again, everybody, and welcome to this Bengals training camp report. It is brought to you by Medical Mutual, the official health insurer of the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm Dan Hoard, along with team reporter Marisa Contipelli, pitch hitting for Dave Lapham this week. And as you can see, we have a very special guest in the middle of the screen. It is Bengals running back Joe Mixon. Joe, thanks for coming on. It seems to me that you are a man on a mission this season. Is that a good way to describe your mindset? And if so, what's the mission?
Man, that's definitely what it is. The mission is, number one is ultimately, man, to go 1-0 every week. That's number one. Number two, just really to produce and be the best teammate that I could be.
Joe, I'm a little disappointed you don't have, your blinged out chain with you. I'm really expecting to see that on you at all times this camp.
Yeah, no, I got it in a locker right now. It's chilling.
Joe, we've always seen your high energy and just, how vocal you are out at camp. Are you taking on more of a leadership role, especially kind of on the offensive side of the ball this year?
Yeah, for sure. I was definitely trying to do that. Everybody look at to me as a leader. I feel like since I first came in here, maybe my second year, everybody look towards my way when they feel like they need somebody to pick them up or when they need somebody to speak to them to really encourage them to be better. Honestly, I feel like that's a funny clip right there. I feel like they all been paying attention to me and they gravitate towards me. And I feel like also they look towards me as a leader because of, one, what I do on the field, but also just the way that I'm very vocal. And I try to encourage my teammates really to be the best them. But other than that, man, I definitely take on the leadership role, and I love it.
Well, along those lines, I have learned a valuable lesson when shooting video on my phone during practice. Anytime that I get footage of a touchdown, I've learned to keep rolling because inevitably you will come flying out of nowhere to lead the celebration. Is that just your love of football coming out, or is it more than that?
It's really the love of the game. I enjoy every aspect of it, man, the good, the bad, and my thing is I try to do whatever I can to, when my teammates get the love, I just try to do whatever to reciprocate it, man. So, they show love with me, and it's only right for me to show love with them. But, I'm probably the biggest, fan of my teammates, really. When they make a big play, I'm always there to congratulate them because, big plays don't come by often. And when you make that big play, it's only right to, express the way you feeling and things like that. So I just like people being happy and just want them feeling the energy.
Joe, we're seeing some great footage here of running backs coach Justin Hill. He's in his first season with the team. Just kind of what's it been like, getting to know him and getting to work with him over the course of camp?
It's been great working with him. To be honest, he stepped into a role where it was a lot expected from him, and I feel like he's definitely exceeded every expectation asked of him. He's definitely a detailed guy, but one thing about him, he definitely makes things a lot more simple than I've had in the past recently. So I appreciate everything that comes with Justin. He lets us be us, and he lets us just do whatever we need to do to get ready for whether it's the practice or the game and things like that. He tell us what we need to do, give us tips and things like that. Other than that, he sits back and just let us go play football. And like I said, I love everything about it.
Speaking of assistant coaches, when Frank Pollock came back this year, you expressed excitement immediately on social media. Why?
Honestly, because what Frank brings to the table. Frank, he has his own persona to him. I think that he's definitely an outspoken guy. He definitely expresses the way he feel about running the football and also protecting the quarterback. And I love everything about him in that aspect. He's definitely, to me, a leader of the pack. And I think that, of what he expects of his guys, it's like I feel like everybody should expect that out of their guys, being a coach. And he brings the best out of them. And, a guy like me that's the running back, I can't do nothing but appreciate him for that, because he only upped my game, to be honest.
Yeah, and Joe, along those lines, Lou Anarumo has said that the offense looks like it's been a little bit more physical this year. How have you seen that out there in camp, and have you noticed a difference on that offensive line?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's definitely a lot more physical. It seems like. Um, I think on an offensive line standpoint, them guys are. I think they've been working hard this offseason. They got a lot beefed up, and they got Frank to coach them. Be on their tails 24/7, make sure they're not slacking and slipping up, and they appreciate it as well. But I think one play that I remember in the Tampa Bay game in the preseason was just last week. The linemen, how they were firing off the ball, in a 4-minute mode. I thought they did a hell of a job. Coach was just dialing it up. Day one training camp rules. And, it was probably the second, third string line. I can't remember who was in, but them guys are firing off the ball and removing people and displacing them. And the running backs was finding daylight, which things like that, when you get them lanes and stuff like that, like we love it. We appreciate it, and we try to do whatever we can to make the most of it. But like I said, they've been doing a hell of a job with running the football and being physical, and I love it.
So we just saw some footage of you taking handoffs from Joe Burrow in practice, and I have this question. You are an Oklahoma Sooner. A couple of years ago, Oklahoma obviously faced Joe Burrow and LSU in the college football playoffs, and he had 7
Yeah.
touchdown passes in the first half of that game. As a Sooner, were you bummed out? Or as his future teammate, were you giddy by the prospect of playing with Joe Burrow?
Um, Honestly, it's a little bit of both. I mean, Oklahoma was dealing with a lot of things that they had going over there on the defense, but at the same time, it's no excuse. And I thought Joe Burrow, he did a hell of a job with his whole college career. He faced a lot of adversity, and when you face adversity, you pretty much, you're basically being tested as a player or a person. What you gonna do? And it's either you could sit down, lay there, and fold, or you could rise to the occasion. And I definitely felt like he did everything, rising to the occasion and more. So, I mean, I'm excited for him, and sky's the limit for us.
Joe, we know that Joe Burrow does not lack confidence, but it surprises me every time I talk to one of your teammates and they say they've seen an extra confidence out of Joe. Just over the last few months, just kind of as he's getting back into that comfort level, and the two of you are continuing to build that relationship. Just kind of how have you seen that continue to grow? As you spend more time with one another.
I think that once we got back to training camp, I felt like Joe's definitely starting to lean on me more. I think that he sees me more of one, that I'm a veteran guy in this offense, and two, that I feel like when he down, he can always count on me to be there as his brother. So I definitely feel that towards him, and I just try to do whatever I can to pick him up, his spirits and things like that. And I feel like he's definitely, making that turning point and getting very, very confident in his play, as he should. Because everything is advertised, and for me, I just try to do whatever I can to make sure that he's on his game, he's playing fast, and doing the things that he needs to do to be successful. So I definitely feel like Joe's definitely leaning on me in terms of being there for him, and I'm definitely gonna have to take on that role and be there for my brother. So that's what we all here for, and he does the same for me when I need him, or if I need help with something else, with a play or things like that. He always put me in the right spot to where I'm successful. So I mean, that's part of being there, and being there for each other. I mean, that's what we need in life. You always need somebody to lean on, and it's always good to know that we got each other.
The Bengals are definitely going to lean heavily on you this season. You're having a great camp. Your enthusiasm is infectious, and we appreciate you coming on with us today.
Oh yeah, no problem. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Thanks,
All right,
Joe.
that is Joe
Yeah, for
Mixon
sure.
on a mission to have a tremendous season this year, and we certainly look forward to watching him in action for however long. Second preseason game against the Washington football team. All right, Marisa, let's transition to some recent practice footage. We just saw a catch by Jamar Chase, obviously. It seems to me he's taken a step forward this week. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely, Dan. I think Monday was probably one of the best camp practices that I've seen out of him, at least so far. It was nice to see him and Joe. We've seen it in flashes throughout the last few weeks, but the way that they were consistently connecting on Monday was certainly fun to watch, especially when they were doing some of the red zone packages. And just overall, Jamar making plays when he has to go out and make a play. So that's certainly been encouraging since we only got a small sample of size from him on Saturday against Tampa Bay. And so, just the hope as he continues to just build on, Monday and this weekend. It's yet to be seen how much we'll see out of him on Friday, but I mean, it's certainly a sign in the right direction.
And this wide receiver battle is really intriguing with 2 preseasons to go and obviously quite a few practices left before the start of the regular season. You basically got 4 spots that seem to be locked in: Boyd, Higgins, Chase, and Tate. But after that, there are some guys that have really had their moments in training camp. What are some of your thoughts on guys like Trent Taylor, Trenton Irwin, Mike Thomas, etc.?
Yeah, it's certainly been fun to watch. I mean, as we're getting a chance here to see some footage of the receivers going through some drills, I mean, how can you not take notice of what Trenton Irwin has been doing out there? I know we've seen him, with the team on the practice squad the last 2 seasons, but he just seems to be coming kind of with a different kind of swagger and confidence this year. And I actually got to talk to him after practice yesterday, and he was just telling me how much extra time he has really spent specifically this last off season on just making sure he was going to come into camp in the right shape, just going over everything from the playbook and different any kind of scheme that he could, just to make sure he was coming in here, as prepared as he could be. And it's showing. I mean, just the way he played against Tampa Bay was certainly a sight to see that, opened a lot of people's eyes that might not have heard of Trenton Irwin before Saturday. And the fact that Brian Callahan, he kind of even said earlier this week too, that, he's been catching the eyes of the coaching staff. So it's been really fun to watch between, the battle of the Trents, as, I think the media has kind of been labeling it, with Trenton Irwin and Trent Taylor. Of course, with Trent Taylor, I mean, he's pretty consistent, and you know what you're getting with a 3-year vet like Trent Taylor. And he does bring that little bit of experience that, guys like Trenton Irwin and, even Stanley Morgan lack when it comes to, game experience and game reps. So, I think Friday is going to be a big day for that wide receiver group. Because, I'd like to see a little bit more of Stanley Morgan too. I think he's had, a fine camp. Nothing has overly stood out. So I'd like to see what he's going to do against Washington. And, the last, final few weeks to determine who's going to get maybe that 5th or 6th spot, or if they even decide to carry 7 receivers this year, Dan.
Right, and special teams can often be a tiebreaker in those situations, and all of those guys offer something on special teams. Stanley Morgan has been a great coverage player in special teams in the past. Trent Taylor has experience as a punt returner with the San Francisco 49ers, and to Trenton Irwin's credit, we have not seen him do a lot of special teams in the past, but he ran down the field and made a tackle in kickoff coverage in that first preseason game against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, he did. And the fact that was his first special teams tackle. And then he was also taking some punts. And, yesterday after practice, just watching him take those extra few punt reps and just kind of, I'm excited to see, these guys grasp the moment and make the most out of whatever opportunity they're given on Friday, because, special teams can make or break you sometimes. And, that's the case, across the board when it comes to, who's going to get that final running back position. When you look at maybe lower on the depth chart for the cornerback spot too. And so, when you have a coach like Darren Simmons, you got to show up each and every special teams rep during practice. And I know you know that, Dan. And, it's certainly, it's going to go a long way to see which of those guys maybe, shines when the moment's right in these next 2 preseason games.
And here are some special teams drills as we speak. Let's take a moment to just kind of look at some big picture stuff. Overall in camp, I think the defense dominated early. That hasn't been the case for the last week or so. Both sides have had their moments. But what are some big picture things that have caught your eye, whether it's about the team in general or about some individuals?
Right. Well, I think you just kind of hit the nail on the head right there with the defense. I mean, this team put so much resources into, improving the defense from last year with just the amount of guys between free agency and the draft. And, so far it's showing up. And I mean, how do you not love that first series against Tampa Bay, sacking the GOAT and Tom Brady, especially for Joseph Ossai as a rookie to get in on there. I absolutely loved that. But I've been really impressed, with the secondary, especially with Chidobe Awuzie and Mike Hilton coming in. I mean, I think Awuzie has had a phenomenal camp, especially this last week, and his coverage on Jamar Chase. He's had a couple of nice pass breakups. And so I'm really encouraged by what I've been seeing out of the secondary out there, Dan, and just, the defense as a whole. They've been very candid. They weren't good enough last year, and, they have to do better. And so the defensive line is another area that I'm really intrigued to see once we have that full group out there, once we can get Larry Ogunjobi into the mix and see how that kind of, that first unit really gels together, because, they need more pass rush. They need to get to the quarterback, more, as, we've talked about heavily, over the last course of this last offseason. So, the defense has definitely been catching my eye. But then, as we were talking with Joe Mixon, I mean, also the competition for that last running back spot. Chris Evans and Jaquez Patrick both had a nice showing on Saturday. So I'm definitely intrigued and excited to see more of the two of those guys on Friday.
They were both impressive, and hopefully Travion Williams will be back sometime soon, because clearly he's good enough to be in the mix. Unfortunately, he injured his hamstring in the final practice before the Tampa Bay game, and that slowed him down a little bit. But hopefully he'll have an opportunity to get back and contribute again in the preseason and put himself in the best position to compete for that final spot on the active roster.
Absolutely, because when we've seen Travion in flashes, he's fun to watch. He had the career at A&M for a reason. He's extremely talented. It's been, one of those situations where, he got hurt in the preseason in 2019, no preseason games last year, really didn't help his chances. And so hopefully he can get back from this hamstring, pretty quick here. And if he can't go Friday, at least play in that third preseason game against Miami, because, he's done a lot to deserve an opportunity as well. And so just, really hope to at least see him at least one time this preseason, Dan.
All right. We have the second preseason game coming up, as Marisa mentioned, on Friday night. It's an 8:00 kickoff in Washington against the football team. And obviously we'll have tremendous in-depth coverage on Bengals.com and the Bengals social media platforms. For Marisa Contipelli and our special guest, Joe Mixon, I'm Dan Hoard. Thanks for checking out this training camp report, brought to you by Medical Mutual, the official health insurer of the Cincinnati Bengals. So long, everybody.